So welcome to the Node API team meeting for November 5th, 2021. We'll follow our standard approach of looking at what's on the milestone 11 and going through that. Any announcements that people have to share before we get started on that? Okay, well, if not, let's take a look. The first one on the list, let me share here. So this one is, the first one is the looking at Node serial port. I don't know if anybody has any updates on that one.
I have been speaking with the author in a chat, and I'm trying to ask him. Well, I asked him if how to reproduce the crash that he's seeing because of the deletion of the reference object, and he says that it requires a more complex interaction than what the test has, and in fact, no, it doesn't. But in the test, that same interaction succeeds, whereas in the real world it breaks, and so he's going to try to come up with a repro that he can post. So that's where that's at.
Okay, well, thanks for the update. That's good. You're on top of that with them. Okay, the next one is our stale issues to discuss. So we have the REPL issue. I haven't had a chance to look at that, but I know Legendicast, I see you looked at it, but then let's see, 1075. Kevin's comment was, once we land 1075, we'll take another look. So this one, I think we're close to getting landed. Let's see, what's anything. Okay, so there's still a few comments, I guess, to be addressed. So on that one, basically, we'll just wait till that makes progress, so that's fine. This one, which is how to construct NAPI callback info C++. We did talk about that one last time, if I remember. We posted on that, so there's no answer, so I guess nothing to talk about on that one. And I think I added this one because I think it was just recently marked as stale. And this one is something with the address sanitizer. Okay, so that was a while ago, and we did have a question, but I think it's good to have on the stale list. It would probably be good if we took a look to see if we could understand if there's something we can do or not. And to define behavior of interpret cast. So let's. So executing. So I don't see anything jumping out at me, but I guess it's any other thoughts from people? I think it's good to keep it on the stale list, and we can see where if somebody has a chance to take a look at it, figure out what we think we should do on it. If not, maybe we should move on to the next list of things, the next thing, which is to looking at tracking modules. I don't see any new modules there, but npm node add-on. I think still some growth there. Let's see. Okay, back to. There's nothing too much to discuss on that one. We don't have Jack, so I won't ask about the tested method, which I know he's working on. Deepak, do you have anything for us to discuss on the work related to the test framework?
No, Mike, I'm just waiting for, to merge the PR. If Gabriel and Kevin are okay, we can merge the PR.
Right, so let's just take a look. I'm in the wrong one there. Node.js, no, API, pull requests. That is, where is it? Enable unit tests, right?
That's right, yeah.
So you've addressed all the issues, and from your perspective,
there was only one outstanding
right?
comment from Kevin. He was fine with everything else. He was asking, why do we need two environmental variables for a relative build path and build path? I had responded to that. I feel that we need it. That was the only outstanding minor comment. Everything else is addressed.
Okay. So maybe just in terms of the build path. So basically, did you have any explanation why to expand on like the question, so, like why you can't use the?
Yeah, there are two places in the test folder where we need the build path. One is a place where we run the tests. There we need the complete path because it is just it's trying to go to a with a root, right? Without a root, basically it's going without a root. Yeah, so it doesn't have a root, and it's trying to point to a build path without root. So it needs a full path, right? So that's the build path. So I need a full path there. And then there is one more location which I have pointed there in the comment, and so that's the index.js under test where there is a root, and then the root is so the root test path is then prefixed to the build path, right? So it's just something like a prefix and then the build path. So what I am doing is I'm injecting a relative build path there. So
okay,
yeah. So I'm not sure if there is a way to minimize that with just one build path. I'm trying to think of it. Maybe if I'm not sure. I thought this is the best approach.
okay.
I'm not sure if there is any other way I can simplify that.
That doesn't seem like a huge thing. Like we can always change that later too, right? So.
Right. Few of the other things are linting comments. The files that I changed, the linter is forcing me to make those changes. So I have made the changes only for those files. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That's the way we have the linter set up, that it forces. If you're changing the file, then you got to bring it up to spec, I think.
Gabriel, do you have any more outstanding comments?
Yeah, I actually had some pending ones. I forgot to submit them. Sorry. So while we're here, maybe you can answer one of them. So the reason why there are so many white space changes is because you're running it through the linter.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay. All right. So the other one, the other comment I had so far, and I haven't looked through all of it, is that there is no reason to just rename environment variables on the command line. Like you have like filter equals npm $npm config filter, and then you run the command line.
Right. Yeah.
I think it would be simpler to make that rename inside the JavaScript. So just because then like the package JSON should be as simple as possible, right?
Okay. Okay.
And you can safely assume that the npm config filter variable will be there, or it will be null. So there's no reason to rename it on the command line.
So when I'm passing a when I'm passing a filter variable from the command line, it gets into the npm build as a with a prefix npm. I think npm config, right?
Yeah, and
npm
that's
config.
fine.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, you know, like you can just say like process.env.npm config filter. You can use that inside the JavaScript. You don't have to rename it to filter before it even enters the JavaScript, right?
Okay.
And then this command line will look a lot cleaner.
Okay. Cool. Okay. I'll make that change then. I thought it so that's why I was trying to reply to you that within the code it makes much easier to just refer to that as filter, because we are passing from the command line as filter. But like you said, on the top of the command line, probably I can translate it.
Exactly. Yes.
I can translate in the JavaScript to filter from npm config filter. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah, I agree that. I'll make that change. Now, I'll make that change and notify you. Probably then we can merge it.
Sounds good. Anything more to discuss on this one then?
Yeah. We can either meet offline. I'll send you a mail. If you have any more concerns, we can even meet offline, and then I can go over the changes and maybe we can then take a decision.
Sound good, Gabriel?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Enable debug, haven't done that. So then looking at issues raised by module owners, I don't know, are there any that people have on the top of their mind that are new or we should talk about? Okay, so this one was a suggestion of adding create snappy throw syntax error and create syntax error. Now, I guess so. This is parsing code. I see. So things like ESBuild are written as a native add-on.
Oh, okay. So we don't have like we don't have a core API for throwing a syntax error.
Right. That's what Nick says based on.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we have, do we have APIs for the different kinds of errors, or do we just have an API throw error?
I think we must have a throw error as well. Yes, let's look.
Yeah, we have different types of type error.
We have type and range.
We have the generic throw error, and then we have type and range. Yeah.
Yeah.
What you just said.
Okay. So yeah, we definitely can add that.
Should we just in the same change to add to all other typed errors, like is it found in JavaScript spec?
Mm-hmm.
How big is that list?
should be relatively limited. If you probably follow this MDN link, oh, eval error, internal error.
Can we go? Is there like a way to get some?
Right, okay, so these
Oh,
are
there
the
they
error
are.
objects.
Yeah, that's not too bad. And I think we already have 2 of those.
And every JavaScript engine would need to implement those?
Yeah, but I think this is spec, right? So it should be, I mean, if it doesn't, then it's not up to spec.
I think any compatible JavaScript implementation probably must have these errors anyway. And it's
And if
much,
not, it can be easily polyfilled. Like you can just throw a generic error in the implementation and just call it syntax error or something if it doesn't implement it.
right.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so should I can add in here, we discuss this in the node team meeting today and agreed it would make sense to add methods to throw
And create.
/create the back, including
Syntax error.
Syntax error, yeah. Anything more we should say on that one?
Maybe, I mean, since the person mentioned that they'll be happy to contribute, maybe we should say we would certainly welcome your contribution just to reinforce that.
Right, sure.
But this would have to be to core.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know. I hope they're clear on that it doesn't come here. It goes into core.
That sound good?
Mm-hmm. Good.
So I will,
It's
there we
great to see.
go.
It's great to see that after all this time, we still have some lacking coverage.
Yeah, well, yeah, and people are using it and finding that stuff.
Yeah,
Windows build mystery release. Okay, so Nicola interacted with them. I don't think we need to talk about it. This one was a question. It's basically, is it safe to use NAPI add-on? Basically, is it safe to use NAPI add-on and NAPI object wrap together? I didn't have time to think about it. I think, Gabriel, you might have a thought on that off the top of your head.
Yeah, let me see. 1097. Yeah, there's no reason it shouldn't be. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. No, you don't want to set instance data because I think internally Internal, yeah, you don't want to set instance data here. Ah, yes, yes, yes. Okay, let me answer that.
Okay. So you'll answer that. I will go on to this one. I know another one. So Kevin wanted to discuss this in the meeting, but we don't have Kevin, so maybe we'll wait. I don't know, Chenzong or Legendikas, you have anything to add to this one?
Yeah, I was just finding that it's related to the 853, and Kevin's finding it in my first impression, it looks very correct to me. So I was hoping to talk to Kevin that he can to submit a PR for it, but since Kevin not here today, so maybe we can talk to him next week, or
Sounds
we
good.
can talk on GitHub.
Yeah, if you can connect with him through GitHub or otherwise, yeah, we'll try next week.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Okay, so I think that's kind of the end of new ones there. Let's just look at pull requests. Right, so I think there's nothing really new on that one. We've discussed other things, unless there's something somebody wants to call out. We can look at node. So tags. No, that's not what I wanted. Choose labels. Okay, I don't think there's anything new then. On this front either. So I guess it's down to then, is there anything else that we think we should discuss today before we close out?
I have a quick question about as I'm kind of working on this implementation for an API for Hermes, and about this finalizers again. So I talked with Hermes team, and one of the options to implement this more reliable finalizers. So technically, how finalizers work today for V8. The work not done immediately as a garbage collected object, but instead we kind of submitting our callback to so-called like a second pass callback or something like this. And then I guess V8 has some kind of special second pass, and it can run all different callbacks, right? So currently there is no such mechanism in Hermes, and there are different possibilities how we can implement it because we can change something or not. But I wonder, what do you think about using microtasks? Because from the Hermes developer's point of view, it will be one of the safest options. So imagine that whenever we need to finalize an object or effectively run our custom finalizer, we submitting this work to as a kind of another microtask. And then microtask is runs like we kind of executing all these finalizers. I just want to run this idea by you and what you guys think in general. Bad, horrible idea.
Sorry, I didn't quite
Sorry,
follow.
go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't quite follow. I was busy answering that question. Could you please summarize?
Oh, sorry. Okay. So technically, it's about running finalizers, NAPI, Node API finalizers. Today in V8, they run as a part of special second pass stuff in V8. There is no such mechanism in Hermes, and one of the possible implementation in Hermes would be to use the microtasks, pretty much microtasks which people use to implement promises.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine like in this case, say like we can just simply submit any kind of finalizers as a special microtasks, if you will, and then this microtask loop goes on we kind of executing all these finalizers. So technically, there are two benefits. First of all, at this point, the whole system can be definitely in reliable state.
Yes.
And we know that nothing goes on in the middle. Secondly, microtasks is a rather standard mechanism. So any kind of JavaScript engine which requires to implement kind of promises must have some type of microtasks available. And another kind of benefits, we say that finalizers always run in JavaScript thread. It's another kind of added benefit. So we never run finalizers in some random thread. So we kind of avoiding altogether this issue with multi-threading and stuff. So like just kind of want to run this idea by you, and what do you guys think?
Actually, it sounds like a great idea, because JavaScript execution is guaranteed in microtasks, right? Whereas we've been having trouble with the engine. In fact, it might not be a bad idea to re-implement finalizers as microtasks in V8, honestly, because those things are guaranteed to run. We don't have to worry so much about engine shutdown, because the engine won't shut down until microtasks have run, I think. If not, then we need to look into that. But I think it's a great idea. Like the only reason we did this second pass and all this stuff is just to make sure that the engine is in a consistent state when we run the finalizers.
Right. So are you saying, Gabriel, potentially in our implementation, we could add things to the microtask queue as opposed to what we're doing today?
Yeah, because like basically the finalizer, the V8 finalizer should be our hint that we should be adding these things to the microtask queue. You know what I mean?
I guess, will we always be in the state where we can do that? Like there's sometimes where things, I think the finalizers get run when we can't run JavaScript, and would we be able to add to the finalizer queue at that, or the microtask queue at that point?
That's a good question. Yeah, I don't know, because the microtask queue is not. Yeah, you're right. I mean, we need to figure out what the state of the microtask queue is when the engine quits, right? Like, because the thing is, yeah, okay, let me think about that for a second. So basically, okay, so you need two things, right? You need to have a hint from the engine that this object is about to be garbage collected, right? And then you need the ability to run JavaScript as part of the callback that gets executed when after you've gotten this hint, right? So now the simplest implementation is that the callback gets executed synchronously with the callback that you got that tells you that the object can be garbage collected, right? That doesn't work. We know that, right? So then we have various solutions. One of them is to do the second pass callback, right? The other one for buffers, for external buffers, is to do a set immediate, right? We do a set immediate for buffers. So I guess in the Hermes case, so Hermes does have a mechanism for notifying you that the object will be garbage collected, right? Which is separate from what you do in response.
The way it's done, like pretty much any object has special kind of static flag during creation, should it run finalizer or not, and they have special, if you like, a host object. So everything what they do, they kind of run in finalizer. So technically, if our host object is referring to some native object, so we can execute the destructor. But at this point, they're saying that they can execute our native destructor, but they say like it's garbage collector is unstable state. So none of our kind of JavaScript code can be called from there.
Yeah. The same thing happened in V8, but V8 has this second pass, but Hermes doesn't, right? Okay, so then what you would do, correct me if I'm wrong, is when the finalizer, when Hermes calls the finalizer, then you would enqueue a micro task, which will then execute the user's code, correct?
Right. And almost like begs the question, like, should we separate, should we have like two types of finalizers, like finalizers which are kind of guarantee no JavaScript execution, which is safe to be kind of executed almost immediately. Another one is
Yeah, we don't like NAPI doesn't have a way of indicating whether the finalizer executes JavaScript or not. So we have to assume for all of them that they do. Yeah, I mean, okay. One possible implication of what you just said is that maybe we want to add a flag like that and add an API that, because we have an API add finalizer, right? Which you can add a finalizer, you know, after the fact to anything you want that accepts finalizers, obviously. And we could add like an API add native finalizer or something like that, and then that would be the indication that from the user that no JavaScript code will be executed, and then maybe we can do it differently.
That would be maybe an optimization, but there's still the same problem in the end that, like, if you say you're going to run JavaScript, I think it will be able to run JavaScript except potentially during shutdown, right? Where you're going through and you're running finalizers which weren't run beforehand.
So
and I guess those, it's kind of like, well, okay, if it can't run the JavaScript finalizer, it's maybe okay just because you're going to be going, like, it won't be a memory leak because the thing is we're actually shutting down, right?
Yeah. Well, not necessarily. If we have a worker shutting down, then what we do is we maintain a list of all the references that we have, right? And then we call them in a tight loop at the end, the ones that are left over, right? Like we have that, and it's had many implications, the fact that we do that now just to clean up the thread. And so for Hermes, yeah, there are two outstanding questions. Upon shutdown, does the microtask queue run before the engine shuts down? That's one of the questions, so as to ensure that all the references are basically resolved and finalized. And the second question is, will you always be able to enqueue a microtask into the, will you always be able to enqueue a microtask? Like what if the object, like what if Hermes informs you that this object is being garbage collected because the engine is shutting down, right? And then you turn around trying to enqueue the user's finalizer, and only to find that the microtask queue has already been, well, finalized or shut down or destroyed or folded up or whatever, and then you can't enqueue a microtask. So at that point, do you immediately call the user's finalizer? Do you error out? Do you ignore it? What is the right solution? So I think these are the two questions for Hermes.
Yeah. So it's the shutdown that's going to get into trouble, right? Because that's where, like, I think we found that, like, while we're finalizing the queue, that can trigger additional things that then need to be finalized, and that's pretty tricky.
Yeah, that's right. But that's okay-ish, because whenever a new reference appears, we put it to the front of the linked list, and the way we destroy all the references is that we keep starting at the front and then destroying. So basically we always destroy the first item in the linked list. So if a new item appears, it'll just get destroyed right away. So, but that's our mechanism, right, for V8. So I don't know if for Hermes you're going to need to have this tracking that we have for V8, because in V8 we know for sure that when the engine shuts down, whatever items have finalizers will never have their finalizers called, because V8 just doesn't care. They're like, track your own memory. I don't care. I'm shutting down. You know, so that's why we have to do it. Otherwise, we'd have memory leaks with workers.
Oh, I see. Okay. I'm not sure, like, if even yeah, I'll check what exactly Hermes does with microtask, but I've seen there's API that you can pump with microtask queue yourself if you need to. It's probably not part of a Node API exposed to modules, but it's part of a Node API will be to host engine effectively. So it's because it will be host application which decides at some point to kind of shut down the environment, and
yes,
we can actually implement it as part of this environment shutdown mechanism.
That's right. Yes. And then so upon environment shutdown, you may want to, well, except for one problem. I mean, depending on the user's code, I mean, the microtask queue, emptying the microtask queue, so to speak, could be like an endless shopping list, right? Because one of the callbacks will just add more stuff that will need, the microtask queue, and you cannot delay shutdown forever. Or maybe you can, and then the symptom is that node is hanging, or the implementation or the application is hanging. And why is it hanging? Well, it's the developer's fault for adding more stuff, because it's basically an infinite loop at that point, and it doesn't happen with every application. It only happens with XYZ application. And then you're like, wow, gee, debug your application.
Yeah, technically speaking, even probably existing code is not protected from this endless loop, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Somebody
Yeah,
can
I
always
guess. Yeah.
true.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing preventing you in Node.js from creating a reference during environment shutdown, and then just adding it to the references, and then in the finalizer callback for that reference, creating another reference, and so forth. You can hang Node if you so choose, accidentally even.
If you're good enough. So generally what I'm hearing, like, this idea that to run these finalizers as a part of microtasks is not so bad. It's something worth to explore, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And maybe for as optimization step, we can add so-called like native finalizers, which we say that we can run soonish. But we can add it later. Like it's for me, it's more important to have finalizers to be run kind of reliably in the first place. Okay, cool. I'm glad that because it's much less changes on Hermes engine side, because the Hermes engineers have been very open to idea to use for finalizers microtasks, and any other mechanism would require a little more careful design and kind of discussions and stuff. Okay.
Cool.
Nice. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any other things we should discuss today?
No, I think we can take everything else offline.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for everybody's time, and we'll talk to everybody next week in GitHub. Thanks.